I don't know how to stop countdowns. So, hi, I'm your host, Nicole York, and I've had a really tough week, as you can tell. I'm going to add in Becky Bjorky Basopsaba. Hey guys, how are you? Sorry about the technical difficulties at the beginning. Welcome everybody to the Artist Forge. I am clearly joined by Becca and Bassam, and we are here. We used to have titles and all sorts of things on the bottom. Today's going to be what I'd like to call, and what I know science has called many times, a cluster, because I have not worked in this in a while. So when the boss is away, I guess the kids are going to play. So how are you guys doing?
Doing great, thanks.
All right, Stones, don't make me draw blood from you all afternoon. All right, so clearly, Nicole is wrapped up in some other stuff, but we absolutely did still want to be here for you all. Make sure that you enter the permissions for StreamYard. If that comes up in Facebook, it may ask you for that. And get in the chat. Make sure that you're interacting with us. Talk to us about some stuff. We love having that kind of interaction going on the whole time. We'll be monitoring it and replying where we can and throwing up stuff on the screen. So, all right, guys, this week, the big topic. Hey, Sarah, how are you? This week, I am going to talk a little bit about, and we'll just kind of see where this goes. This is going to be a free for all. Hey, Erica. I am going to talk about the blue check mark. The dreaded blue check mark. So I've seen it in a bunch of places, right? And if you don't know what it is, Meta, Facebook, Instagram is now saying that you can get the almighty verified blue check, because if you pay $15 a month or $14.99 or whatever it is, you get verified. What does verified mean? It means you get upgraded security. More on that later. You get better visibility. You get a blue check mark. You get to pay them $15 a month. So all of those things get wrapped up. I personally have a lot of opinions, but before we get into that, I'd just like to say hi, Nicole. Welcome.
Hi. Sorry. I went for a walk to the store and I lost track of time.
It's Monday. You're forgiven.
It's okay. Plenty okay. So yeah, so that's kind of the conversation that I wanted to tee up, because I'm seeing it a lot, and my visceral reaction to it, of course, is money grab, money grab, money grab. I don't need that. I don't need to have, USDA grade A beef stamped on my account for $15 a month. I don't believe that security should be something you have to pay for on these platforms. I think it should be just a secure platform, regardless of the tier that you're at. I don't think you should have to pay more than a lot of subscription services just to have a blue check mark next to your name. I kind of liked the whole, you got to reach whatever, some level of status, 100,000 followers or whatnot before you're verified. I kind of dug that, right? Gives you something to aspire to. But it's not the end all be all. Now, the other argument can be that it helps you stand out in a saturated market, might give you a little bit more visibility, might help build trust with people that don't know you. Totally understand that. But there seems to be this cool kids nerds table thing going on right now, where everything's a big high school cafeteria, and the cool kids are saying, we don't need a blue check mark. Right? We shouldn't have to pay for that. And then the nerds are like, well, it might actually help a little bit, but I understand that it's just a money grab. I'm torn, I think, on the use case. Again, it's not something I'm going to do right now. $180 a year to get people to trust me is really not what I want to do. But I want to throw this out to all of you. And I just kind of toss this grenade in the middle of the circle and see what shrapnel comes out of it. So what do you guys think? Becca, Nicole, Bassam, about the whole blue check pay for verification thing?
Well, I'd like to kind of start by saying I would like to learn more about how much of it is fluff versus practical real things, right? Because I'm sure there's some things that don't mean anything to most people. And bottom line for me is the things that, from what you described, Matt, because I'm not very familiar with the functionality of the new feature. From what you described, there's two things that come to mind. First one is the impact of that on the algorithm and the visibility you get, right? When they say you will get better visibility, is it strictly because you're verified, or will the algorithm start playing with things so that if you don't have that blue check, I know you don't know the answers, but that's the most practical thing. Because now, not only are we saying, okay, well, I'm fine the way I am, I don't need to pay the $13.99 because I'm happy with the visibility I have. To contrast that with, well, the visibility is going to go to almost zero unless you pay us $13.99. So that's the first question that comes to mind. The other one is more about security, and I don't usually pay that much attention to security, but when they say you get better security, so did they improve security with the blue check, or did they degrade security for those that are not?
Well, it's an interesting concept, right? And I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows. It's a really unverified, very vague set of guidelines that they put out, the benefits. Nicole, look like you're about to say something. You're about to say something?
I was just wondering, are we talking about Twitter or Meta?
Meta.
Or both?
Generally, the concept right now, I'm more familiar with Meta. I'm not a Twitter user, but I know that Twitter removed two-factor authentication for anybody that did not have the blue check, which I think is just bonkers to me, to reduce security on a platform. I think in the Instagram Meta world, we're talking about just paying there. And one of the bigger complaints, Bassam, has been that there isn't good clarity on what it actually gets you in terms of security, in terms of visibility. Like Lindsay was saying, we're already paying with our data and we're seeing ads, and we're already spending all our time and energy on the platform that we're not getting paid for as content creators. They're making money on it. So they're asking us for more money for the privilege on posting on their place. I'm curious as to the visibility. Will you be suppressed? Will you be raised? Will you stay right in the middle? I don't know.
I wonder, go ahead, Becca.
Oh, no. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking at the Meta page now because I saw the get verified thing on my Instagram the other day, and I was like, finally, it's happening. I'm like a legit person. And then I clicked on it and I'm like, oh. Yeah. Too young to be famous by my own merit, too old to care anymore and want to give them money. But I'm curious because Matt, you brought up people taking you seriously and trusting you because of the verification. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, I'm assuming all of us have creator accounts or whatever it is these days. If the general public, our clientele or our customers know that it's something to be paid for, or is it playing on their lack of I guess it being in the know, because they don't have those kind of accounts potentially. Right. What I am seeing on the Meta page right now is that you will get direct account support. And that's been a major issue for Instagram for a long time, that everything's automated and you can't get to an actual person ever. So that actually is almost appealing, but I don't know if it's worth $50 a month. Customer service.
Until there's proof in the pudding, right, about what types of things could go wrong, why you would need to contact someone at Meta or Instagram. Is it worth it, right? Does it go from a wait time of infinity to something just slightly less than that to get someone to talk back to you? I'm just having a hard time in common sense justification if there's something that I'm missing. Now, I know that in addition, you have to provide multiple levels, probably down to the DNA level of verification of who you are, with IDs and fingerprints and all sorts of hair samples and all sorts of things, for them to just say, yeah, you can now pay us and you get the blue check mark. I don't think you can do that if you're someone like me with Stone Tree Creative as my Instagram name. I don't think you can have something like that. I think it has to be a name of a person, not a business. So again, unclear on what the rules are because I haven't read them.
I think in terms of paying, so I don't have a problem with paying for a platform. if it means you now don't get to sell my data and you now don't get to show me ads, and like if I'm paying for something, I want the benefits of paying for the thing.
Uh-huh.
Meaning now I am not, you are now my customer, or what, you know what I mean? Like
Totally.
the relationship then changes. And we're already paying for ads. So if I had to pay a little bit more to be extra visible and that's what I needed, I don't think I would mind that. My understanding of what the blue check mark meant before was this was a notable person, and you could now verify that this account actually belonged to that person and not like a fan account, which often happened or got confused. People would take famous people's names
Sure.
and even use their, their picture, and there would barely be any hint that this was not the real person. And so my understanding of the blue check mark up until now was that that was what that was, as a way to say, yes, Henry Cavill's account is really Henry Cavill and this Nike account is actually Nike. But if all we get is what we should have had in the first place, for the fact that you're making money off of us, then I'm not interested. If it removes me from getting my stuff, my information sold and having to see all the ads and blah, 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 that might be worth it. I mean, if you look at platforms like YouTube, where you have just the normal service everybody gets, and then you can pay a little bit more and get some extra bonuses, like, sure, tiered plans, that's understandable. I would love to see the same thing available with, Facebook or whatever else, to basically say, hey, if you want to use it for free and give us access to your data because you just don't want to pay, totally understandable. If you want to pay for the next tier up, where now you're more secure and you're willing to make that a payment, like, I don't have a problem with that. But as far as the verification of identity goes, like, you are verified, I'm really me, it's kind of ridiculous, because they wanted that in the first place to protect themselves, so that they couldn't be held liable for fake Nike doing some, whatever, and causing problems for real Nike, who could then sell them for allowing bad things to happen. So why should I pay for a protection measure you put in place? And then the whatever reputation then was built off of that blue check mark is one they did themselves. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that one.
And, Sarah, as in, stop with all the sponsored and we think you like this crap. No, totally agree. We've hit this saturation point, I think, with ads and what the algorithm is trying to shove down our throats. I'm seeing less and less of anything. I'm just seeing ad after ad after ad. So I feel like I would be paying to be the TV show in between commercials. And I don't want that. It used to be you paid for the ad to maybe get seen in between all the content. It's totally flipped around the other way. And now it's, hey, if you want access to this many people, you've got to pay us. And it, outside of the financial thing, because it sounds like I don't want to cough up $15. I just feel like they're making so much money off of selling data as it is.
And ads.
Why enable that? Right? So it's got me thinking a lot about not only the blue check mark, which I could take or leave. I'll see which way everything kind of falls, and if it makes sense, great. I just feel real icky about it from the get-go. But it got me thinking about what would, and we don't have to talk about this. I'm going to preface this because it could be divisive. But if the four of us had a perfect combination of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, what are your biggest features that you would have to have? Meaning video, no ads or ads, right? Direct communication or not, or just a showcase. What would you see as kind of like the best of all worlds types of features for the platforms that we're generally, I'm not trying to go to a software engineering school and design a whole new app, but what are the features that you think would be most beneficial for a given platform?
I just want to encourage folks real quick, and hang on, let me pull it up. So as we have this conversation, everybody, please, everybody needs to be paying to the Restrict Act, paying attention to the Restrict Act, which is the most terrifying potential threat to our freedom of speech that has come up since the Patriot Act. So please be looking at that. If you need to go to congress.gov or whatever, like go look at that, read the bill. It's not that long, but you need to understand what's in there because it is a serious thing. Once that came up, the wider TikTok community basically went, screw you guys, we're going to build grassroots social media. And they now have an entire Discord server full of engineers and software developers and UX folks. And it is called, if you look on Discord, it is called GSM. You can join just to keep track of everything that is going on. Or to be, to help if you would like to, but like those folks are now in the development stage of building this out. And so just to like throw this into the conversation, because that is the actual conversation they're having right now is like, what do we include in this? How do we build it? What do we need for this to be as easily accessible as Facebook and as widely reaching as TikTok and as whatever. So for people who really care about this, again, it's called Grassroots Social Media. If you're a Discord user, you can check it out and go join and see the conversations that are happening and what people are including. So since you brought that up, Matt, I figured I would shoehorn that in just because that is a conversation that's happening right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm reading this book by Ryan Levesque. What did I win? Oh, she's playing slots. So I'm reading this book called Ask by Ryan Levesque. And some of you may have read this, maybe not. But essentially what it is a method for sales funnels, right? And getting people and being able to sell. Have any of you guys read Ask? No? Okay. So easy read. But he's all about, it's a different take on sales funnels. I'll get there. So the first step in it really is asking your customers or email list or whoever to go through a deep dive survey, because what you think your customers want may not be what they want, right? And so a lot of times companies force features or things from their software or their product or their service, whatever it is, down their customers' throats, and they miss the mark and they don't make any money on the product or service. So if you start with this deep dive survey and really understand what features and products that your customers are looking for, you have a better chance at success. So it sounds like we're kind of in that phase right now with GSM, where they're really asking the wider community, not the 10 people in your family, but the really wide community, how do we make this better? Right. And it's not necessarily a Silicon Valley startup where you get 10 engineers that with questionable social skills coming up with what's best for social media. It's really tapping the collective brain. Right. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Has anything jumped out at you as you've watched this so far, Nicole?
So I have been in like going through several of the different channels and watching people's suggestion. And it's what I think has been really fantastic is a lot of the focus on marginalized voices. So like, how can we ensure that marginalized voices do not get squashed by whatever algorithm gets built? Making sure that it's easily accessible for people with disabilities. So making sure that, nobody gets left out of this equation, which has been really fantastic. Watching for any kind of bias in there, which is something that unfortunately is super common in any kind of social, media with algorithms, and the openness of it. So they have town hall meetings where everybody can show up and kind of see what is going on and how things are moving so far. But like they're definitely asking each other, like, what would you have to have? What would have to be there in order for this to be a functional platform? Video, a lot of people are talking about audio, even when your phone screen shuts off. So if you're listening to something and your phone screen shuts off, it doesn't just completely tank. So they're bringing up a lot of the probably common complaints that most of us have, and it's been really interesting to see it go. I'm not in there, like all the time, but it's something I think we should be paying attention to, because it may become, if this thing does get off the ground, it may become the antithesis to all of these big companies who are using us as product.
Absolutely. And it's funny, David had this. It's not a defense, but I'll say in the past, we all paid money for things like ringtones and texting plans. It's kind of fascinating in today's age what we feel we deserve as things evolve. And that's a really, really astute statement, right? That's really on the mark. It also dates David, because paying for ringtones, it ain't happened in a while, but I got you, brother. I'm all over it.
So there's something I do want to bring up with that, and something I think included in this conversation we should keep in mind is, at the point where social media platforms become the actual marketplace of free speech. So we no longer go stand in the town square and say things to each other. We go on social media, right? At that point, then access to social media does become a determining factor in how you are able to access and use your free speech. And so that is a thing to keep in mind that we have not addressed at a governmental level yet. That's a kind of a place I think we're afraid to go, because the ideal solution is that we have an awesome government who plays by their own rules, and they provide a free platform that everybody uses like a public square, because then you're guaranteed to not have private corporations profiteering off of you, ideally, right? But that's part of why this conversation is so important, because at this point, your access, which is why people got so up in arms about being banned from Twitter and stuff, your access to these online spaces where everybody is all the time now is a determining factor of your access to what free speech means now, not what it meant in 1950 or what it meant in 1825, but like, that is the marketplace of ideas. And if you cannot be there and speak your mind in those spaces, and if we were to put some type of monetary value on just access to it, all of a sudden there are a lot of people now who cannot have their ideas heard or their speech heard, in the open. So like, I'm with David as far as, when you're using a private platform, it's not crazy for them to ask you to pay to use it, especially if you care about your data. There's like a bigger, even free speech question, I think, that's part of like the wider conversation.
Becca Bassam?
I'm sorry if I just killed that.
No, the analogy that immediately popped to mind was voter ID stuff, right? And having access, right? Poor people in the country that don't have a car, don't have a license, right? But they still want to vote, right? It's that same sort of thing. They're not getting access. They're being disenfranchised because of the situation that they choose to live in, right? Not going to open up this can of worms. I'm just saying, I think it's interesting how the more folks that get involved, the more control gets wrapped around things, and you're actually pushing people out.
It is almost a digital gerrymandering.
Sure, absolutely.
Or digital redlining in a way.
Yeah. And it's been really interesting to think about, as my disdain for social media is not hidden, and like looking at these things now, I often think, all right, well, if I pulled the plug on everything tomorrow, just would I still be able to succeed as a business? Yes, because I talk to people and I can go around and I can take pictures and I can sell my services. Would it be as easy? Probably not, but it's not taking anything away from my life. I use it because it's a tool that makes things more efficient, but it doesn't affect my life and how I live, right? I don't get angered by it. I don't let it influence my relationships, anything to that degree. But I know that's not the case with a lot of people. I see a lot of people get very angry about a lot of issues because they're seeing things that they necessarily wouldn't otherwise see, or they feel connected to something. No judgment on whether they are or not. I'm just saying I look at it and say it's not that important to me. Therefore, my stance on the blue check mark is it can get the double middle finger. Like, I really don't care. But I understand the broader argument that you're making, Nicole, about paying for a right that we should all have. The ability to have free speech, be able to talk to anybody anywhere. The entitlement and what we deserve is an interesting conversation. I'm sure we could talk about that forever, right? I don't even like when people start to talk about free speech on a private social media platform because they get to do what they want. It's only free speech because you're not paying for it. Meaning on those platforms, you should be able to say whatever you want to say, wherever you want to say it.
Right. Ultimately, free speech means the government cannot come after you because of what you say. Right.
100%.
Right.
I'm interested to see where this goes. And I think that the blue check mark is kind of like poking around the edges. How much will people bear if security goes down, if ads increase, if your reach gets suppressed? I wonder what the tipping point is going to be, because that $14.95 ain't going to stay $14.95. Next year, it'll be $18.95. After that, it'll be $34.95, right? So, and then it really becomes a tiered system of pay to play. Totally their right to do, but it's also, in my opinion, very short-sighted as to where technology is going, where access is going, and this need to hold all the money seems strange to me. It seems short-sighted.
It does promote the stratification of online spaces as well, which since we have been quite a bit more democratized than physical spaces, right? Like,
Sure.
In order to live in a certain area, you need a certain income. But on social media, we're pretty much all equal as far as like we have equal access to assets that could help us reach people. Of course, if somebody comes in and already has a huge following, then that makes a difference. But for the most part, you can have, I mean, if you look at places like TikTok, you have moms from, Missouri who have 4 million followers, and some big company who can't manage to get above 200,000 because, that democratization of the access makes a difference, and the stratification is quite less. And if all of a sudden now on these big places we are paying for access or whatever, I mean, that just kind of brings stratification into those spaces as well, which would be kind of sucky.
It's interesting too, and here's where I put the tinfoil hat on, where we're looking at the Restrict Act, right? Talking about TikTok. And at first I was just like, I don't give a shit about TikTok. I'm not really on there dancing a whole lot anyway. Like, I go and laugh, but I haven't built my business on it. And then I realized the reason I watch it is because people have built businesses and I'm watching their small businesses and what they do. Potters and welders and all that sort of stuff. That's what I love. And I realized how large it had become. And I said, well, why are they looking to shut this one platform down versus the others? And I understand security, but that didn't hold water to me. All of these platforms have huge holes in security. So I started looking into the act and I started understanding that more and what is being said in it. And it is remarkably dangerous. It is terrifying what is being written into law. And people will dismiss it and let it go through because it's just TikTok. I don't use TikTok. Doesn't matter to me. And giving away all the rights. I think it's a very dangerous road that we're heading down with this type of legislation. But while all that's going on, we're going to throw this blue checkmark thing out here and make sure people are looking at the shiny blue checkmark, not thinking about this for 2 weeks. And then it'll be like, oh yeah, we rethought the whole blue checkmark thing. Don't worry about it. It just seems strange to me, like it's odd timing to distract people away from what's actually being done. Thoughts? Crazy guy? Should I be in a trailer with like weird ham radio stuff? Okay.
Crazy doesn't mean wrong, though.
Welcome to my life. All right, so let's take a look at a. Yeah, there you go. It changes.
For the first time, the boomer generation is not the biggest voting demographic anymore. And that's terrifying to people in power, because what the people who are coming up after them are a bunch of socialist anarchists who are like, down with the system. And they're not putting up with shit, and they are organizing themselves like to great effect. So yeah, David has a really important point.
And you know, we saw what happens when you try to restrict a lot of this stuff, right? Tahrir Square, right, in Egypt, and what happened with, was it the Egyptian Spring? Was that what we colloquially called it, when all the protests occurred, and there was no internet access?
The Arab Spring, I think.
The Arab Spring, that's what it was. Forgive me. So you know, you see these mass protests going on, and it's really access to information and access to free speech and access to the world stage that folks want. And bit by bit, we're boiling this frog, and no one's really noticing that things are getting warmer and warmer and warmer, and we're giving up more and more and more of that control. So without me going straight down a Glenn Beckish style rant, this is where I get very kind of, I start checking out, meaning like I just start unplugging stuff, putting tape over cameras, right? And when people walk in the mountain,
move out into the woods.
They're listening. So yeah. Oh, and thanks for putting up the URL. If anybody wants to see that, I'll leave that up for a minute. All right. So that's where I wanted to start. 34 minutes in. How's everybody feeling? Good.
So how do we think about this in terms of, like, you mentioned earlier, you know, if you were to just drop off of social media,
yep,
that your business would still be okay. For many of us, that's not true, which we've talked about, you know, in the past. For many folks, they rely on that as their kind of sole source of the top of funnel, like bringing people through the door. Mm-hmm. And how do we think of this in terms of our business, in terms of where we show up and how we show up and who we're trying to reach? And really important as well, David, saying trans people, for example, have a voice on TikTok, which is true. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is unbanning people who incite violence on his platform. So there's a clear divide, right? And I think everybody can agree that free speech doesn't actually always mean free speech, especially when we're talking about inciting violence and hatred, and that's a thing that is protected. But when we're looking at this in terms of our business and how we show up in these places online, on social media, what things we're part of, I mean, there's obviously a lot of fluff to get through, things like the blue check mark. How do we decide where we're going to be and how we're going to show up and make this stuff work for us?
I know for me, let me just take this jacket off real quick.
Let me get a little more comfortable.
This is me trying to get business, right? So I don't have a blue check mark, so I'm just going to take layers off. No, Becca. So I think I just stay in this place of service, right? I really try to focus on everything that is important to me. I will speak strictly for me and how I run my business. My thing is connection. My thing is relationships. I like to dig in deep. That is not something I typically do over social media with my clients. They may contact me. It tends to be email or calls, right? So I don't have to pay for any sort of verification there. I've got my website up, got an email list that I connect to people with. If my social platform went away, it would most likely reduce my ability to reach clients in other states like I do now. It would just mean that I would need to double down to my local and regional populations. I often go through the thought, if there is an EMP and a big EMP and we lose access to the grid, we lose computers, right? Outside of the standard apocalypse that would happen in the weeks after that, where would society go? And I try to use that as the hyperbolic version of, what if Facebook went away, right? What sort of things would it take away from my life or give back to my life? So when I think about this, for my business specifically, it's keeping that email list strong, trying not to bore Nicole to death. No, it's keeping my email list strong, maintaining the relationships that I have so that word of mouth, which is non-electronic, continues to work. And just continue to stay in this place of service for my clients. That's really it for me. I don't want to see it go away. I'm not going to voluntarily self-select and get out of it. But that's the way that I look at it, Nicole. If I didn't have Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or anything like that, just be a little bit harder, but it's not going to stop what I do. That said, there's a ton of online-only businesses, right? StreamYard is one of them. So, what would they do? I don't know. But I think we've come to rely so much on our devices and what's on the screen and forgetting about what's around us and the opportunities that are here and other ways to make our living, that it becomes a much more stress-inducing thought experiment to think about not having these tools. Does that make sense? So I try to not let it bother me too much. That said, I will be sending out a newsletter tonight. I'll be making posts. I'll be doing all the things. The irony is thick in this atmosphere. I understand. I'm just saying, like, for my business specifically, I think the biggest thing that I can do, platform independent, build that email list. Keep the website going, build the email list, keep communications up nonstop. You get to control that basket of people. Those are your loyal supporters. Those are your fans. Those are the people that actually are interested in giving you money for whatever your thing is. Having people look at your stuff and appreciate it might make you feel good, but the people that have kept you in business, they're gold. That community is gold. They're your own social media platform. Talk to them. Maintain that level of community through whatever means necessary. And I think that is what could help keep people involved or engaged with your business. Make sense?
Sure. Yeah, 100%. What about folks in the audience? Like, I'm curious to know where our members and our community members stand in terms of like how social media fits into the way that they run their businesses, and if anybody has a philosophy that they look at for that. Becca, Bassam, like, I know we've had this conversation before, but I'm
we have, but at the end of the day, everybody's different, and what are you using social media for is today, and what is it bringing to your business? If today, and it's not my case, by the way, but if social media was a huge source of business for me, where I'm fully engaged in that, whether I pay for ads or not, I have a following, and my client base is actually coming from that, I'd be happy to pay the $15 a month to keep that going. I mean, come on, it's a no-brainer, right? And I totally understand it. For-profit private businesses, this whole business model of social media companies is changing, is evolving. They can't make as much money as they were making before. And like any for-profit company, they have to readjust and find ways to continue the growth and the investments and so on. There's so much at risk in terms of investments and research and ongoing things. We kind of forget about all that stuff that happens in the background and only complain about what we, how we benefit from things, right? But what these social media companies have done in the past, like them, hate them, or whatever, if you look at the last 15, 20 years, I don't know if you can get done through the government, right? The level of investment, and I just practically speaking, it would have been done already if it was that simple, right? So all that to say is I'd happily pay the $15 a month if that's where my source of clients is. It's a drop in the bucket. But in my case, it's not, right? And it's simply there to be visible. And I don't think my clients that actually do connect with me through social media, I don't think they care whether I have a blue chip or blue, is it blue chip or not? Right now, maybe that'll change in 6 months, a year and a half. I have no idea, right? But in the short term, I honestly don't see any impact on most people like us, like the photographer, small business photographer, individual owner type businesses, unless you're targeting people and your business is an online or at least social media driven.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bassam. And I want to grab David a follow-on comment there. He said, I think the community aspect of social media is underutilized. That's why I like Twitch more than Facebook now. I don't mind giving money to a streamer, but not a company whose idea of innovation is adding a new emoji while I get blasted by ads. And I want to keep that in mind. There's something I want to follow up with on that a little bit later. But, it's interesting hearing you say that, Bassam, and then tying that into some of David's previous comments. I asked readers last year, I was curious, would you guys accept advertisements in your book if it meant you got the book for free? So if I had a company pay me $50 to place an ad on page 74 of the next highly anticipated novel, and maybe there was one per chapter, there was something, there were a surprisingly large amount of people who were like, yeah, like I would do that. And I kind of suspected that a thing like a book would be the one area you would be like, that would ruin it for me. It would totally pull me out of the story. And there was a significant amount of people who would be willing to do that. So it's very interesting how we have been trained to accept this exchange. I mean, it starts with the kind of that advertising golden age and leads up into now, but it is really interesting. And I agree with David, and I want to come back to that later, but I also really want to hear what Becca has to say as well about how you think, because you've been the proponent, I think, like out of everybody, when we have these conversations, usually you tend to come down on this side of like, this is where your people are and this is where your communities are. And so like, I'm super curious to hear what you think.
So I've been kind of thinking, as like listening to you guys talk so far, a bit about what David just said about the community aspect. And I know we talked about this a while ago. I don't remember what we were actually talking about, but about the death of the social element of social media. And I don't know if I'm alone in having been on the internet since the 90s, but I mean, I've been on the internet a really, really long time. And in the early kind of beginnings of social media, when you had like websites like LiveJournal and DeviantArt and like the beginnings of Tumblr, like, ICQ chat rooms and stuff like that. And it was built on social community. It wasn't built on advertising the way that it is now, right? So like I even like at my wedding last year, I had friends from the internet come who I have never met in person in over 15 years, but I've known them for over 15 years. And like that might sound like crazy, like maybe they're axe murderers or something, but no, it's like I have these genuine social connections with these people.
You and I were internet friends before we were.
Yeah, exactly. Like even meeting David Franco here in the comments, right? Like meeting him in person in January. Whenever. And he was like, I talked to you every day for the last 3 years. Like, it's okay, yeah, you're here, but like, whatever, I'll text you later. Like that social drive, I think, is something that has definitely been replaced by large social media platforms. And I would be interested to hear or look at people who aren't looking at social media as a business opportunity. So all of us up here, we're all using social media for our business. I'm sure all of our friends down in the comments are using social media for their business. But then there's people like my husband who have 15 followers on Instagram, and it's just his cousins and his mom, and like, but it works, but it shows what he does in the house, the cats and kids, and like that he's still using it purely socially, versus me who has separate accounts for that and divvies up my social media usage. And has really defined it, like I said, particular identities and facets of myself to use on different social media platforms. Where was I going with this rant? Anyway, so death of social media. Social media has evolved from purely a social idea to then we had like the rise of the influencer, right? And people are using social media to build themselves as a personal brand. And now we're moving into this more really algorithmically controlled recommendation media landscape, which is entirely different. We're just getting ads. We're not seeing stuff from our friends. We're not even seeing stuff from the influencers we follow. We're seeing things that programs think that we are interested in. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're great. And sometimes they're completely not relevant at all. So I think a lot of these larger questions of, how to move forward with social media, how do you use it, where if you unplug, does it affect your life? It really depends on the person and how they are using these kind of platforms. Will it kill their social life? For some people, yes. Will it kill their business? Some people, yes. I know I have definitely put myself in a position where I live in the middle of nowhere and I work for people all over the world. If the internet went out and social media went out, I'd have to move. I have to go live in LA and I hate LA. But that would be the requirement. That was the opportunity that the internet and social media specifically has presented to me. It's given me the opportunity to do things like buy a house when I was a teen mom and I have 3 kids now. Like I could not have done that staying in California, or moving to Los Angeles or moving to New York. It's a loud opportunity that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And without that, it would absolutely 100% really negatively impact my business. I can't go out like Matt and go talk to the businesses down the street because they don't buy what I'm selling. But, the random publishing house in England does, or, the random movie studio in LA does. So it would definitely upend things for me 100%. And I've recently kind of fallen off social media. Like I opened TikTok and Instagram for the first time in like 3 months the other day. And I was like, oh, I have fallen. But then people noticed I was gone. So there are these connections. There's the sense of community. There are those diehard gold followers who are there and who are interested in what I'm doing and where I'm at and, how to hire me. And they do pay attention to that stuff. So please no EMP dropping and killing all the internet.
Believe me, that's not what I want.
Yeah, it is the most scary. Don't go Google that, by the way, people. Don't go Google what would happen if that. Don't do it. Don't, especially if you're an anxiety person. Don't.
So if I need to start dropping trigger warnings when I start talking, it's just going to be like one of these disclaimers that you get at the end of a commercial, right?
No, it's just fair warning because like being in the fictional, you tell fictional stories, you learn, there's certain things I actually can't say, but that's one of those things that is more likely than some other bad things and scarier than you. Yeah.
So I think one of the bigger points to that, Becca, is that I look at it and say, if this went away, would I have to change what I do? Would I have to find new skills? Would I change my livelihood? Yeah, probably. Like my business owners, I've proven over the past 5 years, don't want to buy my photographs, right? This is why most of my stuff comes from elsewhere. I think...
Oh, geez.
Oh my God. All right. That was David's red flag to lighten up, Francis. Like, just let's ease up on the conversation. I think for me, it comes down to, yeah, I would need to find some new skills, but I'd still be able to live a happy, fulfilling life, right? It might not be in the chosen profession that I have right now, but I've had so many chosen professions that I can go back to doing something, right? Or at least adapt to the situation in front of me. I've almost got a strong back left, so I can probably pull and lift things for a while. I think people become so dependent on the machine that we've forgotten just the human side of us, right? This is what happened in WALL-E. Everybody sits in a lazy boy chair and just kind of spreads sideways, right? Not too far off from where we are now, right? Press the button, DoorDash comes.
Boy chair.
What's that?
I said I wish I was sitting in a lazy boy chair. This thing is not comfortable.
So that's all I was getting at with that, Beck. And I understand, like, you've chosen the tracks that you're running your train on, and you would have to move if you wanted to continue in that. At the same time, maybe you find that gardening is your thing. I know it's not, but but I'm just saying, maybe it's a thing. Becca becomes a farmer. I'm pulling for you.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, like, humans are adaptable and you eventually figure things out. However, the question of, like, so these are things that we've talked about several times. The only reason I'm on TikTok is because that's where readers went.
Yep.
During the congressional hearings with the CEO of TikTok, he actually shouted out my community, the Book Talk community, as one of the reasons we should be keeping TikTok around, because it got people back into reading. It's bringing adults who have stopped reading back into the reading community. It's making positive impacts. It's effectively changing the publishing industry significantly because of the weight that community has to decide which books get picked up, which ones are popular. Barnes and Noble has picked up on this. If you walk into a Barnes and Noble, you will see tables in there that say popular on Book Talk or Book Talk made me buy it, because that community is hugely influential in what people read. If I did not step into that space, there's still lots of Facebook groups and things like that I can join, but those Facebook groups are several thousand or maybe tens of thousands of people. This thing gives me access to millions of people. I had a video get 2 million views. My ability to do that on other social platforms is strictly limited, and the existence of my target market in those other places is also strictly limited. And unlike many other places, I mean, Reddit is a place that does not take kindly to advertising, right? Like if you show up to try to sell Redditors something, they will laugh you off the face of the earth. TikTok is also not super great for ads. When most people see something as sponsored, they will try to get away from it. But there are people who are trusted by their communities in a way that Instagram was never able to capture, because Instagram was all about the aesthetic. And if you looked a certain way and you could take good photographs of yourself, people wanted to see that just to see it. But TikTok has seemed to build communities around people and things that they enjoy. And so those folks show up with their messy hair and their whatever and all of their opinions, and people follow them because they like that person and they like what that person has to say. So if I send, well, they're over there, I'm not going to grab one, but I have promotional boxes for my book that comes out soon that include things like a necklace that is in the book, and, you know, bookmarks and book plates and these fun things. When people see that from those people, if those people like and enjoy it, they are going to be much more likely to buy it. So I can't reach those folks with an ad. They're going to trust the people they trust. And it is the closest thing that we have now to those interpersonal recommendations, where if Julia says she really loved Cupid's Pizza on the corner, you would go there. And that is what that space has become. If I were not a part of that, instead of spending my time trying to make a dent there, I would be spending my money trying to make a dent somewhere else. And for most folks, the return on investment there, you can spend 80 grand and make 100. And like, while yes, you're still making a profit there, was that worth what you just spent? I mean, the only person that can answer that question is you. So like, where are your people, the folks who buy your products, the folks you want to connect with who are doing your business? And for Becca and I, there's not enough people in our communities where that's practicable for us, because I would have to go door to door hawking my book like a salesman to try to get enough people to buy it that I could actually earn anything, because this book is 80 something thousand words. It's, 300 and whatever pages. When somebody buys this on Amazon, I get $2.99. Maybe that's what I get. If somebody buys a paperback, I get about $2.99. It's not as if I can sell. I used to be able to do a photo session and make several $1,000s off of one effort. I can't even do that with hundreds of books. I have to reach such a huge audience to make this career work for me, that the only way it works is if I can reach many, many people somewhere. And if I had to come to the table with the advertising dollars to do that, I would never be able to make it happen. So I think we have to know who our people are, how our business makes its money, and what is the most effective use of our time. Because if the most effective use of your time is putting together a Facebook ad, that's super great. If the most effective use of your time is showing up and making a 5-minute video for YouTube, that's super great too. But you just have to know that. Also, all of my closest friends are living in different states. And so on the non-business side, I would be really, really sad.
You ain't lying.
So, Nicole, based on your passionate description of why you're on TikTok, maybe maybe an unfair but valid question. If tomorrow morning TikTok says we're introducing a $15 blue banner or whatever they want to call it, would you pay for it?
That would totally depend on what they offered. Yeah. I mean, if it was that more folks,
something
would,
as
if more
something as
people on the
confusing.
FYP would see your video.
Yeah. It's something that would guarantee that you keep that momentum, as opposed to, well, now it's going to be a little bit tougher and I got to do other things. And obviously,
Yeah.
very vague what the blue ribbon is, but therefore TikTok is even
100%.
more. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you would,
Yeah.
you would, because
100%.
based on
Yeah.
for your business, that's what it takes. And the $15 a month is probably nothing, compared to losing that platform or losing that audience, or
Yeah.
or
I mean, and I do think all of us should be testing, right? So if I were to pay the $15 and then 2 months from now it did nothing for me, I would drop the $15.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but like as far as that goes, that's like you said, that's a drop in the bucket in terms of momentum and trying to build an audience. And bringing that back to if everything were gone, and then David's conversation around groups. I just this morning was scrolling through one of the Facebook groups I'm a part of that is a business of being an author group. And one of the authors there was panicking. And she said, Kindle Unlimited emailed me and they said they found a pirated copy of my book on Apple. And if they didn't take it down in 5 days, they're going to drop my Kindle Unlimited account. For those of you who don't know, Amazon has a Kindle Unlimited program where you can subscribe to read all the books you want as part of your subscription for any book that is on there. The problem is for indie authors specifically, when we sign the contract with them to have our book included, if they find that it can only be in Kindle Unlimited, so that ebook version cannot be anywhere else on the internet except Kindle Unlimited. If they find it, even if it was done by pirates, they can cancel your entire Kindle Unlimited account, which for many authors means losing their entire income. So the power that Amazon has over your career at that point, if you are exclusive to Amazon, is astronomical. You could lose your entire income and the audience that you've built. My answer to that uncertainty, and also with Facebook, like I got kicked off of Facebook for a while for saying something completely innocuous about a group I am a part of. They kicked me off of there for a while. So the fact that they have so much power over you in these spaces absolutely led me to building groups for my people, in part on my email. So I have the members area on my website where people can get a bunch of cool stuff from me. I have my newsletter that you don't have to pay to be a part of and still get a bunch of cool stuff from me. I have a Facebook readers group now where people can go, because I am more interested in community. I would rather have 1,000 people who love my work and buy every book I write than kill myself trying to reach 1 million people all the time. And if I were to lose TikTok, then I have the group in Discord and I have the group in Facebook. And so I'm definitely spreading myself out to try to cover those bases. But it to David's point, but it is also exhausting to try to keep up with it all and keep the people engaged and continue to give and entertain, and the performative aspect, right? Like showing up to be the person that they came here to participate with. There's only so much that you can give before you become a husk. So you have to figure out how that is going to work for you. Because if you're not careful, it's definitely not sustainable. So if $15 could take a lot of that away from me, Bassam.
Yep.
For sure.
All right. We're at an hour. Would we like to continue? Or would we like to say, you know what? That's enough anxiety for 60 minutes. We can ease back a little bit. And it's, Nicole, I think I'm in very much the same place as you in terms of I don't know where this is going. I don't know what my reaction is going to be. I can only go with my experiences from the past and kind of how I've approached situations. What I love, what I don't love. This is different for everybody, right? Everybody's got a different value and belief system. So for me, I'm watching it really closely. I'm more concerned about the security access to my information than I am about a specific platform and marketing. I'm
Right.
concerned about government overreach rather than paying $15 a month, right? So I think it's really going to come down to what is it that drives you? How does it fit into your life, into your business? And it's a really complex, complicated ecosystem, right? Book talk versus just weird stuff that I'm into. And then Bassam living blissfully, just staying off of it and living a happy, healthy, wonderful life. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to watch the next couple of months unfold. But thanks for putting that the URL. I've got it up right now on congress.gov and going to give it another read. I encourage everybody to go do that. Final thoughts, you guys. What do you think?
Kind of tangential, but relevant. So my daughter the other day asked, and she's 6, and she asked me, "Mommy, can you have the robot thing make a picture of a kitten with flowers on its head?" She's talking about AI image generation, right? And it occurred to me that there's going to be entire generations of people, and there already are when we look at Gen Z, Gen Alpha, right, who grew up with the internet. They don't know anything other than that. There's going to be generations like my littlest who don't know anything other than the algorithm, other than AI generation, whether it's language models or image generation or whatever it turns into eventually in the next years. And I've been trying to wrap my head around, how much my own bias and perspective, being the age I am and how I am as an individual, shapes how I feel about all these things, whether it's the government or social media or my own just social interactions with other humans. And yeah, I think that lends itself to the anxiety. So I've been trying to be mindful and open-minded to things as they're changing and trying to be, what is the word I want for it? Look at every angle,
Yeah.
and try to stay informed.
It's evolution, not necessarily evolution we agree with and probably in the right direction, but we it is evolution. And going back to David's comment about, he said not companies who have their idea for innovation is introducing new emojis. Well, unfortunately, there's probably millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people out there who actually believe that that's innovation and that's what they're looking for from social media. So at the end of the day, for-profit businesses have to consider all that and make decisions based on that. And going back to Nicole, when you talked about the grassroots, can't remember that, but basically
Grassroots social media.
Yeah, social media. Yes, but the idea of having governments do that, I just don't know if that's not possible, but whether it's probable or not in terms of
desirable.
Or desirable, because at the end you have the hundreds of billions of people looking for either running their business or the new emoji, and I'm not sure how much they're going to care about that. So I don't think there's a business model there for the government, because even the government is in managing money and managing finances. So yeah, I don't know. So it comes down, unfortunately, to putting bills out there that restrict stuff and that eliminate stuff and that add stuff and make it more and more complicated, because that's the easiest way to do it.
I'm going to ask ChatGPT if the bill is well written and see if it can come up with a better solution.
Yeah, can you rewrite
this? All right, guys, thank you for hanging in there. Everybody that joined us in the chat room, everybody that's watching and just lurking, thank you so much. Appreciate it. As always, we will be back hopefully next week on Monday and do this all again. Maybe we could talk about something different. Maybe we could talk about social media.
Inspiration.
Before we go, we just also want to mention that if you are in our Facebook group and you would like to learn color grading from Hollywood commercial retoucher Dennis Dunbar, that class is coming up on April 13th, and there is not much time left for our members to get a discounted entrance fee to that webinar. After that, it's going wide and the price will go up. So really, really encourage you, if you're part of our Facebook group, to go in and sign up for that now, because you guys are the only ones who know. And then it is going to be going wide after that. So take advantage and get your your class at a discounted fee that will be recorded. So if for whatever reason you pay for the webinar and then you're not able to make it, you will be getting access to the recorded version of that class. So 13th, you only got a little time left. Sign up for it now.
And
do the thing.
add to that,
theartistwords.com/Dennis webinar.
To add to it, I'll be talking to Dennis this week and have an episode next week for y'all to listen to of Generator. So yeah, we're gonna make that happen too. So in the spotlight. Anything else, guys, before we get moving?
Nope.
Nope.
Thank you all for being here. I'll see y'all soon.
All right.
Bye.